Welcome. I am marketing expert and business coach Melissa Kellogg-Lewick, and this is the Doing Business Like a Woman podcast, where we are exploring and teaching you how women are reinventing the way business is done and money is made to help you create greater impact and financial freedom, one business at a time. Well, hello, ladies. So happy to be with you today and have you here with me. I have a very special guest today, and I'm so excited for you all to get to meet her and hear all of her wisdom. And we may, New York out a little bit. But I have with me today Gina Meyer Vincent. She was born a New Yorker, and when you hear her voice, you'll know. And she's our personal soul shifter. She's known for swift, direct methods. She offers fresh, unconventional solutions with analytical thinking and intuitive finesse. Gina provides personalized concierge 24/7 attention, where she pushes her high-achieving clients' boundaries. She's a contributing writer for 3 Orange County magazines in California, a speaker, and the host of the Exquisitely Aligned TV show and podcast, with her book launching in early 2025. So exciting. Welcome, Gina. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm delighted to be with you.
So, New Yorker to Orange County, what's the story behind that?
And there was a stop in between. So I grew up in New York. I was born in a blizzard, and I think immediately I noticed it wasn't the right place for me, going from being in the warmth of mom's belly to the shocking cold and more than 3 feet of snow.
Oh, wow.
But I grew up there and always enjoyed being taken on vacation to places that had palm trees and red tile roofs. My parents couldn't understand why, but now I know why. I went to college in Manhattan for Fashion Institute of Technology, started working in the fashion industry, and I don't remember if I was 23 or 24, but I was asked to relocate with that job to Charlotte, North Carolina. And at that point, my parents had already left New York and were living in Winston-Salem. And my brother was young enough to be in their home. My sister was in Raleigh. So going to Charlotte, oddly enough, felt like I was going, quote unquote, home. And I got there and realized just how landlocked I was as a water person. That was difficult. I did have the warmth, though. And I met my husband, married him, had our son, adopted our daughter from Guatemala, and life was good. But I got tired, honestly. I felt a little stifled, if I am being honest with you. The energy vibe, which I'm very sensitive to, didn't feel like it aligned with me anymore. And so we decided that summer of 2020 would be just the perfect time for us to relocate to California, to be closer to the ocean and still in warm weather. Little did we know there'd be a pandemic. You see, our son would be graduating college and our daughter would be graduating our K through 8. So that's why we thought it was ideal. But by hook or by crook, Melissa, we made it here. It was a very, very challenging move. At the time, we had 2 German Shepherds and 3 elderly cats. They all have since passed, 1 per year since 2020. But it was crazy, between trying to get hotels, trying to get the animals across the country, and trying to buy a house.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. And going through all of that transition in a time when everything is shut down and you can't meet friends and new neighborhood.
Yeah.
But you got to California.
I did. What's the right word? When I set my mind to something, I find a way to make it happen. So I got a few extra gray hair along the way and nearly lost my sanity, but it all worked out, and we're thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Well, So Gina and I know each other through eWomen Network. We are both platinum members of that organization. So we met at the Platinum Summit earlier
Mhm.
this year and in Newport Beach. So which
Yes.
it's kind of funny because I went to college in Costa Mesa, which is just up the road from Newport Beach, and I hadn't been back there. And you live in that area now in Southern
Mhm.
California, and I went to grad school in New York and lived on Long Island, where you grew up.
Yeah.
So we probably passed each other on the train or the
Yes.
subway or the freeway somewhere.
Absolutely. I think we're definitely destined to meet.
Yeah, yeah. So it's so great to get to know you more. And I was on Gina's podcast. We recorded an episode just last week. So this
Yeah.
is, our third week together here. If we include the summit when we were together. So we're old friends now, practically.
Yes. And so many coincidences and overlap that it really excites me.
Yeah, yeah, totally. We were chatting about our upbringing and some of our early years in business. And so speaking of that, tell me about how you got started in the work that you're doing now, and tell us a little bit about the work you're doing now.
Yeah. So over 20 years ago, I was a mom with it. I almost said a young mom. I wasn't that young. I was a mom with a young child, our son, and a stay-at-home mom. And I loved every minute of it, but I needed to maintain my sanity because raising a child wasn't as easy as, it looks, right? So I started, or at least I wanted to believe. So I started practicing yoga, and very quickly I found myself, I want to say, addicted to it. And my husband would come home and he'd say, "Oh, you didn't make it to your class today." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I can tell." So
Uh-oh.
there was a noticeable difference between practicing yoga and missing yoga. And I would often miss if my son overslept, or, we got out of our rhythm, whatever the deal was. That was usually the only reason why I would miss. Not that I often miss, but the reason why. And so one day I was reading a book about yoga, and it said, if you want to learn something more, you should teach it.
Hmm.
And so I thought, oh, this one sentence is speaking to me. So at dinner, I broke the news to my husband. This is what I wanted to do. And he said, "Okay, great." And I said, "No, I'm like dead serious." He goes, "Yeah, no, I support you. I see how it shifted your world." And it was the piece I was missing, Melissa. I had checked off all the boxes. The boxes being that I set out for after college. I wanted to be married. I knew that. And I was engaged prior to the wrong man, luckily called off that wedding. Now I'm married to the right man. And I have our son, and I knew I'd like another child, but at that point we didn't have her yet. But I felt empty. I felt something was missing, even though I had the house, the cars, the child, the husband, the cats. And yoga gave me what I felt I was missing. It was the depth in my life, the importance, the things that really mattered. So I started went through certifying and became a registered yoga instructor, and loved every minute of it. For me, it was the mindset. My students came to me for exactly that. And it was funny because if they missed for a few weeks and then came back, I'm like, "Oh, welcome back. So good to see you." And they're like, "I need this." They could also feel
Yeah.
that 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 it was almost like a vitamin that they thought they didn't need, and then they went away, and then they realized, sometimes it might be a skincare or a friendship, or who knows, your music or whatever your outlet is. And so it was really interesting. The compliments I got were all about mindset. And
Mm,
then Mark became sick, which I'll make that a very quick story. My husband is a double organ transplantee. He needed first a kidney, I was to be his donor. Things went wrong in our local transplant center.
Oh,
It
no.
caused him liver failure. So no longer could I be his donor. At this point, our daughter was 2 and our son was in kindergarten. So I had my hands full. I didn't know what day of the week it was. I didn't know what meal I was to feed them. All I knew was I was trying to keep him alive. I was able to convince him to get a second opinion, and Mayo Clinic, Jacksonville, Florida, accepted him.
Wow.
On our 10-year anniversary, I moved him out of the house and put the kids back to Jacksonville, Florida, waiting for organs, a kidney and a liver from the same person.
Mhm.
And I put the kids back in their car seats and drove home to Charlotte. And it was kind of a blessing to be free of him for a little bit, because I was so personally depleted, energetically, physically, emotion, everything,
Yeah, of course.
from eating casseroles that people were baking. And let me tell you, they were life-saving, but it wasn't the food that I would normally eat,
Yeah.
but it made life easy. So I went home to cook healthy and try to get myself back, get the kids aligned, etc. And he did receive a kidney and a liver from a woman my age, my blood type, and also an organ donor, which,
Wow.
so now he has a kidney and liver that's 6 years younger than himself. So, but that really escalated things for me. From yoga was fun. It brought in a small income that was maybe good to go out to lunch with a girlfriend, break up the monotony of being a stay-at-home mom. But for me, I needed to do more. I
Mm.
needed a little bit of time, to be honest with you. I had gained a lot of weight. I was exhausted. I had to get my kids kind of back up and running, as far as we use our eye contact. We say please and thank you. Those little things that I put aside while trying to keep him alive, my husband alive. And
Yeah.
long story made short, Blissed Out Fit and Feisty was when and how I started my business. And I love it. I mean, it's sometimes challenging, right? And but it's so exciting, and I'm ever so grateful. And Exquisitely Aligned was born out of the parent company, and it's super fulfilling. So that was a very long answer. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. And I think the backstory is important, because for many of us, that's what gives us our start, right? That is the spark that we go through something and we come out the other side and we're like, well, I can't help but turn around and want to share
Yeah.
this journey and what I learned with other people that might be going through similar journey,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
So what
absolutely.
kind of work do you do with your clients now? Tell me about that.
So when I started, I tried to mimic the model that was taught to me by several coaches, and it very much didn't align with who I am. It
Mhm.
was, you create this funnel, you send emails. I had grown my email list to 17,000 people using Facebook ads, and I had this monster. And the thing I was taught back then was to teach in groups, kind of like a yoga class where I had 30 people, or a bar class where I had 75 people, you know? And I was very much used to groups. I did groups when I owned my paddleboard business as well, but it didn't align with me, because honestly, I like to touch people at a very, very deep level.
Mhm.
I like to touch people who are here to make a big impact. So if I can touch, maybe I'm using my fingers, so there must be a reason. If I can lay my hands on 10 really impactful, important women and a few smart men, who then go out and cause the ripple effect,
Mm.
I knew that's where I wanted to be. So for me, as you read in my bio, I work with clients in a concierge format, kind of like your concierge doctor. They meet with me three out of 4 weeks a month, typically, because
Mhm.
they're often busy with work and traveling. And we either meet in person or online, or a combination based on where they are. And then they have 24/7 access to me, so that whatever we're working on, if something triggers them, or if something excites them, they can share it with me at this in real time. Now they do know I do go to sleep at night and turn off my ringer. But I love to, get back to them within a New York minute, and they're more than welcome to leave me detailed voicemail, and then I can call them back and we can, move forward. But what I've found is it's the most fulfilling, most enriching for myself, and the most impactful for my clients, because there is no gap in between of losing time. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining that properly. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's definitely makes sense. So what kind of transformations, or what kind of, help do you offer them?
Mhm.
What's kind of their before and after?
So for me, it's all about who they are at their three different levels. Their
Mm,
unique gifts that I believe we oftentimes gloss over because they come so naturally to us that
mhm,
we dismiss them. We think everyone can do that. I know I did it myself years ago, and I had a girlfriend who kind of shook some sense back into me. She's like, "What, are you kidding me?" you know? And then it's about discovering or rediscovering, reconnecting might be a better word. Their soul level truths that I believe are written on their soul, only they know. And that oftentimes we're pushed away from based on what I call societal noise or norms, right?
mhm.
And then we have our desires. And I think as women, most of my clients are women. I think our desires were asked to be kind of put on the back burner because we have other people to care for, or we
Yeah.
choose to care for others, or we've been taught by our grandmother or mother, aunts, and so forth that that's what we're here for. And I think that my biggest thing is helping them remember or recall or reconnect, whatever the word is for the person, their truths so that they can go forward. And the transformations, everyone is so unique. That's why I never put them in a group setting. They share with me things that are so intimate, so private, that oftentimes they tell me, my husband doesn't even know this, or I've never told anybody this. Or I'll give you one example. Someone, I was going to use the word powerful. When I say powerful, I mean in a beautiful way. I don't mean masculine energy.
Yeah.
Somebody who is extremely intelligent, a doctor, who was married for more than a decade with kids and great at everything. Phenomenal wife, mother, doctor. Patients loved her, but struggled with worthiness.
Mhm.
And not that she came to me saying, "Hey, I have a worthiness issue, please help me,"
Yeah.
but it was more like, I am at a point where I want to grow my practice, etc. And I was like, absolutely. And we just dove deep into what is that block, that invisible thing that's, hurdle, whatever you want to call it. I try to use different words because I'm a visual person, and maybe someone's like, I don't have a block, but a hurdle they might envision,
Yeah.
or this stepping stone. And we got very quickly to it, where it stemmed from, and not that it was forced upon her, just kind of almost learned ish,
Mm.
if we can make that a word. And the minute we got to that point and I asked her, "What do you need?" And she said, "I think I need permission."
Mm.
Okay, I'll give you permission right now. That's an easy one, but that's not lasting.
Yeah.
And the homework was, go home and start giving yourself permission to feel worthy of all the things right? She invested financially in her schooling, in her education, her degrees, her diplomas. She invested her energy, her time, right? So time, money, and energy all into this career. Then this practice, right? We have rent, we have lights, we have staff, equipment. And so I then asked her to think about, what do your patients say to you? and start writing them down.
I love that.
And she started saying some of them. She started bringing them week after week. And I was like, okay, what do you hear when you're reading what they said to you? And she said, in the beginning, when people used to compliment me, she would do like you and I had spoken earlier about that same brushing off that is part of imposter syndrome. Oh, well, yeah, no, or I'm not that good, or whatever, fill
Yeah.
in the blank. And all of a sudden, she was actually able to say thank you. Because I kept
Mm,
saying to her, hear what they said, repeat it in the voice in your head, take a nice deep breath, feel it with every ounce of your body. And then, with a big smile on your face, say thank you. And I asked her to she's really good about journaling. I have sheets of loose paper flying around, but I know where they are, if you can imagine that. And I asked her, keep a running list
yeah.
and see and hear what words are coming to you. She's a seer, very, very visual person. And she started, and as you can imagine, her practice, I should say, is soaring without
Mm,
any more hours of work, with not any more energy or time. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
With same level of getting up, getting dressed, going to the office. And even her staff have said the energy has changed.
Wow.
And one of her dear friends, who I've yet to meet, said to her, let's call her Susie Q. Susie Q, it's like you're vibrating at a different level.
Yeah.
And I think so it's kind of this, I guess, to answer your question, a paradigm shift, being able to see and experience our lives differently,
Hmm.
from everything from work to all the things we love to do that we call the 4-letter word life.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and I love that story. It will really resonate with my audience because we are entrepreneurs, business owners,
Mm.
women that aren't afraid of hard work, right? But I love the point that it really is in that receiving, right? And being
Mhm.
able to receive the compliments and internalize that and allow that to change our minds about our worthiness, which led to her giving permission. And so when she's receiving, she's also shifting into that receiving energy of more clients, more money coming into her business, right?
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's such a minor thing, but how do you see some of this, feeling unworthy, or some people might call it imposter syndrome? We're not talking about that in a clinical sense here today, but
Mhm.
often we think about that of, not feeling worthy or not feeling good enough to be doing the work that we're doing. How do you see that show up for women that are entrepreneurs or have their own businesses?
Yes, I believe it shows up in different ways. Sometimes it's feeling held back, like something is there. Sometimes it's working so hard, hours at the desk, weekends or late nights, or when the kids are sleeping or husband's golfing, I don't know, that you're expending so much energy and repetitiveness. In other words, perfectionism to the max,
Mm,
with a neon and glitter and exclamation marks. And oftentimes, for me personally, I would say I see it going towards, if it continues, towards burnout, or
yeah.
it doesn't have to be clinical burnout, they're in a hospital in bed, but towards, there's this frustration, there's this exhaustion, there's this never enough kind of playing in the background of, uh, in yoga we say, to go back to yoga, the monkey mind, right, of
Hmm.
this, what we're hearing in our own voices in our head. And that's where I think we have the power. in my opinion, we personally have the power to shift that and to make the conscious choice of being intentional and deliberate all day long. And I ask, I moved it because I have a photo shoot coming up and I wanted to make sure we used it in the photo shoot. But I give my clients a 1-minute glass egg timer that you can find online, hourglass egg timer with the sand in there, and just say, in these 60 seconds, come up with another way of seeing this or hearing this, or is this true? You know, what is the truth? Give your 60 seconds and see. And initially, it's always intimidating to them. They may come up with one thing in the 60 seconds, but as they keep practicing this, oftentimes they come up with like 10 different versions, you know, and I say to people who practice yoga, it's like down dog, right? When you do down dog with your face facing the mirror, like I once did in a class while wearing the microphone, I scared myself because all the wrinkles went the wrong way. I looked like a Shar-Pei, you know? But when we flip ourselves upside down like little young kids on, I don't think they call them monkey bars, but on the old things that I called a monkey bar, I don't even know what it would be. But when
I'd say monkey bars. Yeah.
okay, so when they hang upside down, they love it, right? It's a blood rushing to their head. It's thrilling. Mom and dad and grandparents and friends are all upside down. You know, the sky is below them. So when we can do that for ourselves, I think it becomes easier.
Yeah, to just change the perspective and think about all the different ways we could see
Yeah.
our work. Yeah. And so how did you, I think this is an interesting, I'd love to hear how you shifted from starting yoga and learning yoga to wanting to teach it, and then feeling, a lot of us feel like, oh, well, I know yoga, it's no big deal. But, how does that go from, the interest in it, the passion for it, to creating a business, and then even moving into the work that you're doing now? I'm sure you had to do a lot of work around seeing your gifts and seeing your worth and seeing that people would pay you, for this, these gifts. So tell me about that.
So I'm going to back it up a little bit to being a department store buyer, right? In New York to North Carolina. Because there it was very easy. What I had to do, well, I have in my gifts and talents at the high end is being a futurist. So for me to be able to see a trend and then know how long it'll last and when it'll fall comes a little more naturally than to someone like my husband.
Yeah.
And my job as a department store buyer was to watch those trends in my 285 stores, department stores in my little category, my department, and then go and shop the market, which I also love to do. So I was able to buy an item and buy it at wholesale, mark it up. In the industry, we call it 50%. But if you're doing math with your child, it's 100%, right? Yeah. So if you buy something at 50, you're selling it at 100. And then I needed to know when, if it wasn't selling fast enough, I needed to mark it down so that I could bring new in. And this was very easy for me. I could always sell a product because it was someone else's, right? Somebody else created it and it was physical. So I could hand it over to you and take your credit card, your cash, whatever it was. Not that I was doing that as a department store buyer, but in theory, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Well, when I started my business in 2017, and here I am pricing in a service. It's not an object. It's not a piece of apparel. It's not a shoe, a boot, a heel. It was extremely challenging.
Yeah.
And I underpriced myself. Business didn't take off the way it was quote unquote supposed to based on the coaches I had hired at the time. And the thing was this, honestly, it never aligned with me. And I think I probably put down a bit of an energy. Right. Hindsight's always 2020. If you asked me in 2017, I wouldn't have had an answer for you. What's wrong? I don't know. But now here we are in 2024. I can see that energetically, I knew it was a misalignment. I knew I was worth more, but I didn't really own that. If I see you're nodding, so I'm guessing you get what I'm trying to express. And it took some time, I'll be honest with you. It didn't happen overnight. It was a deep journey within, which is what I usually do with clients. And I think that's why the transition went from like, hey, doing groups and publishing my digital magazine to, hey, no, the real transformation that I can give is the one I gave myself, which was really getting to know who I am, what I have that's unique to others. Now, I've always had my hair different than my family and friends. I've always worn red lipstick when my friends oftentimes may not even wear lipstick or lip gloss, you know? And so for me, being unique was very much how I dressed and appeared. And now I needed to do that for worthiness, things like, who am I? What do I bring to the table? Besides the outside, what do I internally bring to the table that I can teach and show people in a New York minute? Because I am fast. I'm an activator. I get shit done, if I'm allowed to say that word. Sorry. I get things done fast, efficiently. I am a perfectionist. I should say maybe recovering most of the time, but you know, there's this way I can move people. And I had someone tell me, Gina, you could sell ice to the Eskimos. Gail, a neighbor of mine in Charlotte. So if you're listening, Gail, thank you for saying that, because it was, I could sell ice to Eskimos. I don't like being cold. Why would I be selling ice? Why would I be in Alaska? Like my mind went off on this thing.
Completely missed the point.
Right. So I came back to my husband and I said, did you know Gail said this? And he said, well, yeah, you could. And I was like, yeah, but that's not who I am. And he goes, no, you know, and so I had to sit with that for a while. And I said, well, do you think that I am phony and I just can sell anything, like that I'm pushy? And he said, no, I don't think that's what she meant at all. She means you're passionate, and that when you believe in something, your efforts can, you know, cause people to buy something they may not need, right? So I sat with that for quite a bit, and obviously it still rings true in my head today as I speak with you. And it was like, yeah, that's my gift. I can move people. And people pay for right. We live in a world where people would like to swallow pills. And let me just say, when I was in pain with my hip and shoulder, I would have liked to swallow a pill and made it go away, but I didn't, because I knew it wouldn't go away. So I was doing other things and eventually had my joints replaced. But we do like speed, and we right? People pay for what they value. I don't value Starbucks coffee because I don't drink coffee. I drink tea. And I like a brand of tea that Starbucks doesn't carry. So I really, if you bump into me in a Starbucks, it's odd. You know, it's not a place I hang out. But I realize there are people who value what I offer, and they value speed, they value privacy, they value all the things that I want to offer, and the directness that I don't sugarcoat things. You know, one thing that's very hard for me, you didn't ask this, but I'll share it, is that when I give somebody a truth that they need to hear but may not want to hear, I always wait till I believe they're ready to hear.
Yeah.
Number one. But I know that they may lash out on me like a cat with her claws. because it's not something that they want to hear, but when they do hear it, they usually come back to me and say, I needed that. Now I know whatever it is, XYZ.
Yeah.
And I forgot the beginning of the question. Please forgive me, but I think that I closed the loop.
Well,
Yes?
yeah, I mean, it's talking about how you went, or how you basically
Mhm.
aligned your value. And it's really the selling ice to Eskimos, to me, in your story, means that you became aligned internally with your value,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because yes, we could all go out and sell anything, right? But we are not going to have that passion and that effectiveness until we are internally aligned with our, first of all, our human value, our inherent value. We are 100% inherently worthy and valuable.
Mhm.
But, realizing that, number one, and then number two, aligning our unique abilities with our business value, right?
Mhm.
The offer that we can make to the world to make the greatest impact.
Yeah.
So that's really what that says to me, is you became aligned with that internal value and that business value, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's when the magic really happens, in terms of when we stop hitting our heads against the wall of why is my business not creating the revenue, the clients that we want it to.
Yeah.
So,
And
so
can I add to that
yes,
or
I
do
was
you
just going to ask
yeah.
you how you help, how you
Yeah.
counsel clients through that.
Perfect, because that's what I was gonna say. I think oftentimes, like you were saying, hitting our head, and I think lots of times as entrepreneurs or business owners, we believe we have to do what someone else was doing that worked for them. And I
Mhm.
don't think that's always the case. I think that we need to, for instance, I love having a podcast and being a guest on your show. But I know some other people, some clients, I would never ask them to start a podcast because they're not comfortable with that. I love meeting people like I met you and getting to find all the connections and learn the things that I don't know that you know, and share and collaborate and grow, right, in a relationship, etc. But for some people, their gift might be writing. For others, it might be speaking. For others, I know when I came into the business, everybody said you had to have a book. And I thought, okay, that's really not what I want to do right now. It is something I'd like to do eventually. And
Yeah.
so I did my deck of cards, as you know. I thought to myself, my gift is more conversational. And even if I can't be in their home, I'd like to ask them questions. And so that's what I did. I did a deck of cards that asked people questions, whether for meditating or journaling. And I think when I work with my clients, I like to go deep, get to know, I believe we're as unique as our fingerprint,
Mhm.
and what makes them unique, so that we can work on the things that come so easily to them that they can't believe they're being paid to do, right?
Yeah.
I think that when we go to math class, now math comes easily to me. It's my favorite subject, actually. That's why department store buying, math, numbers, money,
They're
turning
like
over
spreadsheets.
percentages. Yes,
Give them
spreadsheets.
to me.
Yeah, I was right. This is right up my alley, besides shopping for clothing and shoes and jewelry. But this spreadsheets, yes, I love it. I'm as passionate. But, I think we live in a society where, and it's not just the United States, but we're asked to focus on what we're not good at. And then we're looking outside of ourselves and constantly hiring people to help us help fix maybe me. There's
So good.
nothing wrong. And then the other thing is that also takes us away from who we are and who we are, how we can uniquely impact the world, and leave our fingerprint. I like to work with people who want to leave a legacy, because that's like, it's super exciting to me. And I think the world needs that now. There was one other point I was going to make, was a young child likes attention, right? From a temper tantrum to a little dance in their diapers.
Mhm.
Then we go to someone like my daughter who's 18 in high school. It's approval amongst your peers. Then we go to college possibly, and so forth and on. And we're looking at acknowledgement. We start in our career. We're looking for accolades, all these A words, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when that doesn't come, the approval, attention, acknowledgement, accolades doesn't come from within, I believe we're left feeling misguided or empty, maybe even a little unhappy. And I don't mean like clinically depressed, but longing or yearning for something. And I
Yeah.
always use the 4-letter word more. And I think it just stems from this, like, you're not good at math, let's get you a tutor. You're not good at this, let's get you a coach, where but what if we're not meant to do math? What if we're not meant to have a podcast, but we're meant to write a book? What if we're meant to work in groups because more people make us thrive, versus one-on-one, and I think when we find what makes us unique, like you were talking about, aligning with all those things that make us unique or exquisite,
Mm-hmm.
that's when the doors open. That's when you become magnetic, maybe magical. I don't know. There's so many words that can go in there.
Yeah, I love that because it's for me, that's such a paradigm shift for us as women entrepreneurs that I think we get caught in the trap a lot of time of hiring coaches or
Yeah.
buying programs because, like you said, we're looking to be fixed, or
Mhm.
we're not doing it right, or
Mhm.
we're not doing it like somebody else. But
Mhm.
really, we need to have advisors and coaches like you, and like I believe as well, where you are 100% unique. You're going to create a 1 in a billion business and life. And
Mhm.
that all comes from inside of you, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do everything because the way I've done it might
Right.
not be the right way for you. But I would love to help you discover that, right? And
Yes.
help you implement that. And so I think that's such a paradigm shift. And unfortunately, there's a lot of coaches and programs that have made a lot of money off of trying to make people feel like they're doing it wrong. We're doing everything
Yeah.
wrong and they need to be fixed.
Yeah, I love that you said that and gave it a voice because it is cookie cutter-ish, right? And you know, back to the department store buyer, I guess you can never get that out of me. My kids know when I go to the store, people are like, excuse me, can you help me find? And I'm like, I really don't work here, but I do know where it is. Hold on. My
And you
husband's like,
all,
who are you talking to? I just had to help her find her skirt and her size. I knew where it was. It's just in my blood, but
and just real quick, I have to tell the
yeah.
audience, you've got to go look at Gina either on her website or on the YouTube for this episode because she is spectacular and beautiful and so stylish. So that's, yes, you could definitely want to walk up to her and ask her where the good clothes are.
Well, Melissa, that means a heck of a lot coming from you. So thank
Oh,
you. I,
thank
I
you.
appreciate it. But when you're a department store buyer, you get a discount to shop at your stores,
Mhm.
right? So when I left that field and had to start shopping at retail, and there were programs we had with like Coach where we could buy at 50% off.
Yeah.
And so I got used to this. So I call it the big bang for the buck, right? And I think that what we have to figure out is where are we going to get our bang for our buck? And where where do we invest our time, money, and energy?
Mhm.
I love that we work in the same, like similar, I don't want to downplay what you do, but I feel like we're similar in
Yeah,
the
for
way we
sure.
approach things. Good.
Mhm.
Okay, because I never want to insult you, Melissa, and I think that if we can get to a point where we think, if I do the deep dive to what's truly makes me unique, what I like to say to my clients, I'm thinking you do the same, is I don't want to work with you forever. I only can work with a few people at a time. I max out at about 8 to 10. And so within that cycle, then someone leaves, I can add someone in. And I don't want you as a client for life. I would prefer to be your friend after that, colleague, whatever, meet you at a eWomen meeting, collaborate on whatever it might be, go shopping. And so I think if we can get to the point where we ask ourselves, is it worth my time, money, energy to invest in XYZ that feels maybe a little too cookie cutter versus, and I guess, I mean, maybe I should ask you, do you sometimes find people who might be intimidated with the internal journey of, well, what I would consider internal journey of finding your uniqueness, finding their uniqueness, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I see a lot is women will come to me with a surface level issue, like they want to be making more money in their business, or they think that they're not doing enough marketing, or they're not doing their
Yeah.
marketing right, or whatever. And so that's kind of the issue that presents. But they also know deep down that they have tried all the things and all of the
Right.
actions aren't working. And so, usually it's at that point when we can start talking about, well, let's really dive deeper into these issues, because as we all know, as entrepreneurs, that building a business is just
Mm.
as much about growing and personal growth as it is
Yes.
about financial and business growth, right?
Mhm.
So people that come work with me, they maybe have a understanding or an inkling that that might be the case, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And it usually is, like you said, that little surface level
Yeah, of
thing, but
course.
then beneath it's this huge, and it's could be just one thing that when you shift that,
Yeah.
it really, I think, the worthiness thing, especially,
Hmm.
not just in business, but it transcends to if you're in the dating market,
Hmm.
who you will, accept an invitation from for coffee, a glass of wine, or a dinner. It ripples into what you want to do on the weekends, who you'll hang out with, from friends, spirituality. I mean, from food, right? What we take in, how we exercise or
Yeah.
move. I don't always like to call it exercise. It sounds like work, but movements,
Hmm. Hmm.
and how we spend our time. And I think that it's such a, I don't know. For me, it's really fulfilling. And I know from your smile, I'm guessing it's the same, to watch that evolution.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. It does ripple throughout our lives, because how we do one thing is how we do everything, right? So that growth, that internal growth shows up in our business, it shows up in our relationships, it shows up in how we treat our bodies. And yeah, I love that. I love the work that you're doing. It's amazing.
Likewise, likewise.
So is there anything as we wrap up today that I
Mhm.
haven't asked you, or any points you would like to make for our audience, things that come to mind for our entrepreneurial women?
Mhm. Well, I guess I would say, I always like to say, stop playing the one size fits all game. You're so unique, and it's something that I would love for you to own and really play with it, explore, tap into it. You don't have to get it right the first time. It's this evolution. And when you start sharing your gifts, I like Celine Dion, Josh Groban. I mean, I like a lot of different artists, but let's use the two of them. They've sang together beautifully. And when you think of maybe a young Celine with a hairbrush singing at the top of her lungs on her bed, to then having her parents say, "Oh, sing for our dinner party," to then sing at the school, to it's this exploration. And thank goodness she did, because I enjoy singing along, maybe a little off key. My husband would say, "Oh, it's a good thing I ruined my ears from standing too close to the speakers at the nightclubs in my day. But so when I sing, it sounds lovely to me. But, think of your favorite artist, musician, author, so-and-so, and just start taking that on and playing with it and own your worthiness. Nobody can do what you can do. And if you do feel like you're ready to make an impact, the word you use, which I love because I use it too. I mean, now is really the time. We're here in the age of Aquarius. And as an Aquarian myself, if you're laying in bed at night, tossing and turning, it's most likely not your hormones. It's most likely you're feeling a nudge to step up and be bold and courageous. And there's no better time than now. And if you're with Melissa, you're in phenomenal hands. And I can't say more. I just want to say thank you for all that you do and for being able to have a show, Melissa, as well, to reiterate, teach, and touch people around the world with these important conversations.
Well, I'm so glad that you are here today. I really value your time and your beautiful spirit and style and smile. You have to go online to see her smile. But thank you so much for being here today. And I know my audience is going to really, really appreciate this episode. It's so inspirational to get to be with you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I will see you again soon. And okay, so before we go, what is the best way for my audience to keep in touch with you, keep up on what you're up to, and hear about this new book coming in 2025?
Perfect. So you can email me at gina@exquisitelyaligned.com. And I think you put that in the show notes, so I won't spell it. And on socials, I'm Gina Meyer Vincent and Exquisitely Aligned. I have both. So please just Google my name or my business and you'll see many ways to reach out. I greatly appreciate it, Melissa. This has been so much fun, just as much fun as when you were on my show. I really enjoy your energy, your spirit, your wisdom, and your ability to touch people in the manner that you do so uniquely.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for being here. And yes, we will have all the links in the show notes to all the wonderful things that Gina is doing. So reach out to her, keep in touch with her on social media, and I will see you again next time. Thank you. Hey, if you like this podcast, I would love for you to become a part of my community. Sign up for my Friday Selly. The link is in the show notes. And each Friday, I'm going to deliver to your inbox my weekly celebration, as well as my thoughts on the latest in business and marketing. And I want to keep you in the know about my upcoming events, free trainings, free gifts, book clubs, all the fun things. And of course, I'm going to send you notification of my latest podcast episodes. So get signed up and I'll see you there.